CDN is for static content. It is not for server computing. It is not for computing purpose. It is for static content. So what it will do is, when you use CDN, you will have your static content stored in multiple locations called edge locations across the world. So when a user browses your application, these static contents will be served from the nearest edge location. So when it is served from the nearest edge location, the speed of delivery, speed of that particular content delivery to your customer will be very fast. So what this will do is, this will make your application load faster for the customers. Okay, so this is the next level when we add when we add more infrastructure to our more components to your infrastructure. Okay, so now when your application usage grows further, your infrastructure should also grow, and you will cache database and services. Database and servers to cache the pages. You will be caching databases, or you will be caching databases or servers to cache the pages that are commonly browsed information, those kind of things. So what you'll do is, you'll add cache databases. So what this will do is, the commonly browsed pages and everything will be cached in this database, so that when a new user browses a particular page which is already been browsed by some other user, then instead of having to download all the components, the page, instead of having to create the page again, the page will be cached in this particular database, so that it can be served from that cache database itself, without going through the actual app database and connecting with the database and all. So this will again improve the speed of your application. Okay, now when your application grows further, what you have to do is, you cannot have complex infrastructure without monitoring system. So what you will do is, you will add a monitoring system to your infrastructure. So this monitoring component, or monitoring tool, or monitoring system will monitor all the components. So you'll be able to identify, okay, which component is healthy or which component is failing. All those things you'll be able to get the details with the help of this monitoring system. Okay, so now when your application grows more and more, so does your infrastructure, with many replicas for your application server, database server, cache DBs, and so on. And your whole infrastructure will look like a mess. Like it will be unmanageable for you. Okay, so as a DevOps professional, you will have to help manage these infrastructure components. So as a DevOps professional, your job is to manage these components. So if the number of components, or number of infrastructure components increases, that means more headache for you as DevOps professionals. So how are you going to manage this to ensure that the replicas have the right information, and to ensure that all the replicas have the same data and there is no difference in the version of content used inside each? How will you maintain consistency of data? So this is where you will need a configuration management tool. Okay, so you will be writing all the data you need, all the conditions that each component needs to have in a couple of files, and these files will describe the state where each component should be in, and each component will then follow that instruction. So it will be like, using configuration management tool is like having a set of instruction to manage your servers or manage your infrastructure components. Okay, so with a couple of files, you can manage this whole infrastructure without much headache. Is it clear? That is where configuration management tool comes into play. Okay, now Prapanshu is asking, is that it will be stored in database, the files which will browse like we do, save password for Gmail login or FB in browser as remember password? Prapanshu, are you talking about cache DB, caching databases? Is it database server? Yeah, actually, no, it is not for saving the password and also, like, see, let's take the example of one web page. Okay, so one web page may have some content, like it will have say one image, or it can have one form, one login form or something else. These are maybe one is loaded with JavaScript or something like that. So first time when that page is loaded, all these components need to be downloaded from separate locations. Like the staging content may come from CDN. All those things may have to be downloaded from different location, and that page is created, and that page is what is being served for the customer. Okay, so when you use this caching database or caching servers, what it will do is it will save that cache bill. Like first time when the page loads, it will load from different sections, and once it is loaded, it will save that frequently used page as such in that database. And when another user browses the same page, it will be served from the cache database instead of downloading the image and for loading the form and everything from different CDN on different servers. What it will do is it will serve from the cache database directly. So the time to download and load from different location will be eliminated. Is it clear, Pravanshu? Okay. Now, Akhil is asking, so each component should also support the particular configuration management tool. Akhil, yes, actually, configuration management tool, when we use like your components, you should be able to access. Like when you talk about infrastructure components, most of the components are servers. So those things you'll be able to manage with the help of configuration management tools. Like another thing is for automation, also you'll be able to use configuration management tools. So at that time, like even you'll be able to create your own AWS instances with the help of configuration management tool, custom scripts. So all those things you'll be able to do. But mainly when you're talking about configuration management tool and infrastructure component, those are servers. Those are like Linux server or Windows server or Unix server, different servers. So those servers will be able to configure using configuration management tool, or you'll be able to consistently manage the data inside each server and also the state of each server with the help of configuration management tools. So Prashant is asking, can router switches be configured? Prashant, if your router switches can be configured with the help of CLI, then of course the same thing can be done with the help of configuration management tools as well. But if it is not possible, then no. So basically, all those things that you'll use more like earlier times. So before the introduction of this configuration management tools, what you'll do is you'll create, if you have experience with say bash scripting and all, you'll be writing your own script to configure your servers. So you'll have to write your script, your own bash script from scratch. But when configuration management tools were introduced, those requirements are eliminated. Now you, instead of creating your own bash scripts, what you can do is you can create you can use configuration management tools. So the configuration management tool will take care of all those things. You just need to give the commands. You don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to worry about how it is achieved. You just need to specify, like, I want this state to be achieved and these are the steps. You just need to specify that. Okay, so Rajeshri is asking, is Python useful? Rajeshri, if you know Python, then it will be useful, because some configuration management tools use Python as the language, as its language. So but if you don't know Python, that also is fine. Like Ruby and Python, if you know, that is good. But if you don't know itself, like it is a simple language, like when you see the commands, you'll be able to understand what it does. Okay, so now it's clear, right? What is the use of configuration management tools? Now Akhil is asking, are multiple configuration management tool in combination anytime? Is there such requirement? No, okay. Actually, I'll be in this session. We'll be seeing say three configuration management tools. First is Chef. Today we'll be seeing Puppet, and the upcoming sessions we'll be seeing another configuration management tool called Ansible. But you won't be required to use all three or multiple configuration management tool at the same time. So if a company is using a configuration management tool, then they'll be using a single configuration management tool. So you only need to know one. So why I am doing this is, when I introduce these different configuration management tools, you can try out this. You'll have a basic understanding of all these configuration management tools, and after that you can go deep into the configuration management tool which you like or which you want to go deep. So it is your decision. You can go deep on, say, Chef or Puppet or Ansible. So all these configuration management tools are in demand. So if you know one configuration management tool, that is very good. So what I suggest is just understand these different configuration management tools, and after understanding, if some one particular configuration management tool interests you more, then please go deep into that configuration management tool so that you will be an expert in that configuration management tool. Okay, so that is what you should do. Okay, so Rajeshri is asking, is there any difference between Puppet and Ansible? Rajeshri, we'll be seeing that difference when we talk about Ansible. Okay, at that time I'll be comparing Chef, Puppet, and Ansible. Okay, so I'll be doing it step by step. So today when I talk about Puppet, I'll be comparing Puppet with Chef so that you will get the difference. And when I teach you about Ansible, at that time I'll be comparing Ansible with Chef, Puppet, and Ansible so that you'll understand the difference. Okay. Now, Prapanch is asking, can you let me know which config does not need any programming language at all? Prapanshu, actually, all these configuration management tools are written in certain languages, like Chef and Puppet are written in Ruby. In the case of Ansible, it's written in Python. So basically, the commands that you will be executing will be in these languages mostly. Like, but even though I'm saying this as different languages, it is like writing your own code, like writing your writing a paragraph. So it is human readable. Like when you read that command, when you read a particular resource, a particular command, what you'll do is you will definitely understand what it does, because those are simple languages. Okay, so these tools will need some programming, like you will know say Ruby syntax or what some Python syntax is. Those things you will need to know. So all these tools, all these configuration management tools that I'll be explaining will need that knowledge. But don't worry, there are a lot of examples, and there are a lot of help available online, so you'll be able to use those things. So don't worry about those. Pravanshu is asking, is Ansible uses Python? Yes, Pravanshu, Ansible uses Python. Khadi is asking, will you discuss Python here? Khadi, when we are discussing, or when we are going through Ansible, at that time I'll be using the Python command, like commands that Ansible use, but Python separately we won't be discussing. Okay, so let's proceed with the session. Now, Puppet, like system admin challenges. Khadi is asking, from where should I learn Python? Khadi, there are a lot of online sites which provide you with Puppet tutorials, like step-by-step Puppet tutorials. You'll be able to see and practice. All those things are available. You can just search the internet and you'll get. Okay. Now, system admin challenges. Like, as DevOps professionals, there are challenges that you will face while working with the operations part of DevOps. Like when you are deploying services with, like, deploying services with consistent configuration, or configurations or versions is a challenge. Then identifying and fixing inconsistencies is a challenge. Then continuous application deployment is a challenge. Automating everything is a challenge. Then rollback and disaster recovery, all these things are challenges that are faced by uh, DevOps professionals in the operation section. Okay, so using configuration management tool, you will be able to overcome most of the challenges. Like in the case of rollback, you will have to write your own script. Like you have to create your own options, your own scenarios to do the rollback and all. There is no automated way for rollback. Okay, then when you have these scenarios, why not use manual scripting? That is what we say. Like, this is a common question. Like, most of you will be expert in some scripting language like Python or Bash or anything. So you may be thinking like you will be able to write scripts much faster than learning new tools. For example, it is possible for me to write a script that will log into all the servers in the infrastructure and manually execute some scripts. It is possible, but there are issues with that. One is it is difficult to have that kind of an expertise in an organization. Okay, so it will be centered mostly around one person, which is not viable. Like, if I resign from a particular organization, then how will that organization manage my script? Like, it is difficult for me to document or delegate these things because I am the expert in that one. So if someone else who is going to take over my work, they may not have the expertise that I had. So those are things that will happen. Like when you're using manual script, like first one is difficult to code. You should be an expert, or you should have high-end knowledge in those scripting tools to have that, to create those scripts, to provision everything, or to configure all the servers and all those things. So to in order to get an expert with that much expertise is difficult. Okay, then it is difficult to manage dependencies with the help of those custom scripts, and like tagging for like different environments, all those things, all those like or arranging like this should come first and this should happen second, all those ordering, all those things are difficult to code with the help of normal scripting languages. Okay, so that is one reason why we won't be using manual scripting. So next one is difficult to document or delegate. Like I mentioned, if I am an expert in scripting, when I create the script, I'll have to document everything in detail so that others can understand. And also I'll have to like, I'll have to delegate my work. I'll have to delegate like, okay, you will have to execute this script to do this, or someone else will have to do execute this script to do this. All those things I'll have to delegate. So that also needs some expertise. So next is like this must be coded for each operating system or version. Like when you write your script in a particular for aimed for a particular operating system, the same script may not work on a different operating system. So you will have to write multiple different scripts for different operating systems. So that is why you won't be. These are the reasons why you won't be using manual scripting. Okay. Now Prabhanshu is asking, are Jenkins also configuration tool? Which programming language they use? No, Prabhanshu, Jenkins is not a configuration management tool. Jenkins is a pipeline automation tool. We'll be seeing Jenkins also in this session in this course. But Jenkins is not a configuration management tool. It is a pipeline automation tool. Okay. Now, Pranav is asking Nagios. Nagios is also not a configuration management tool. Nagios is actually a monitoring tool. Okay, so they don't use any particular programming language, but Jenkins is created using Java, and Nagios is using Node.js, I think. Okay, but we'll be seeing Jenkins and Nagios in this course. Okay, then Ajinkya is asking, rollback means uninstall update of OS kernel or application or something else. It can be anything, Ajinkya, actually. It can be an OS update, it can be an application update, but when we are talking about our application, it will be rolling back our application, like putting the previous version and all those things. Okay. So now we'll see about Puppet. Okay, so what is Puppet and how Puppet works? Puppet is a configuration management tool very similar to Chef. So you will see something that are similar to Chef and some things that are absolutely different. Okay, so first thing is like Chef, it helps to manage infrastructure as code. You'll be writing all the configuration information in a text file or in text files, and that means you are managing your infrastructure as code. Okay, then next is it describes stats, not steps. Like this will be clear in the upcoming slides, because like you will be specifying what you need to achieve. You won't be specifying the steps. You need to you will be specifying, like if you want to install a particular package, then you will be specific, you will be saying install package. Everything else it will take care of. This the configuration management tool will take care of. Okay, now Riza is asking, DevOps is an ocean of using tools. Are the tools which we learn are frequently used on? Exactly, Riza. So the tools that we'll be seeing in this course are the tools that are most popular, and also those are most commonly used. So there are a lot of, like I mentioned in the initial class, you can use any tool for DevOps. There is no predefined set of tools that you should use for DevOps. That is not the case. But during the course of this course, you will be seeing tools which are most commonly used and also most popular. Okay, now coming back to Puppet, the third is you will have to give your idea of your most ideal and clean system, and Puppet will do the rest. You don't have to worry about how that is brought upon. Like, you just need to specify, okay, this is the system that I envision. Okay, so this is the this is the system that I envision, and Puppet will, and configuration management tool will take care of how to achieve that state for that particular system. Now, Khyadi is asking what is state. Khyadi, this you can understand that this is state, like what state your system need to be in. Okay. Now, Bhushan is asking which one is very easy to use for DevOps. Bhushan, I can't answer that because see, based on your taste, maybe Chef will be easier, or Puppet will be easier, or Ansible will be easier for you. That will depend on the individual. But most of the people will find Ansible much easier than say Chef or Puppet. But that will depend on the individual. So you will be able to say which is easier for you. I can say it for you. Okay, Reza is asking, if possible, can you name some tools which are used, and are we going to have a look on Maven as well in this course? Reza, see, those are the tools that we are seeing in each day, each session. We are seeing different tools. All these tools are in relation with DevOps. So by the end of this course, you will have a good idea of the common tools that are used in DevOps. Is they saying other than these tools? This is the see, these are the common tools that are used. So you will need to understand these tools first. Okay. Now coming back, Puppet focused on managing constructs like users, services, and packages. So you'll be able to manage users, you'll be able to manage services, you'll be able to manage packages with the help of Puppet. Then Puppet can detect the current state of system using factor. Like we saw about the Ohio tool in Chef, right? So similar to Ohio, we have factor in Puppet. So the functionality of factor in Puppet is similar to that of Ohio in Chef. So can anyone tell me what Ohio does in Chef? The tool Ohio, what is the use of the tool Ohio in Chef? Can anyone tell me? Anyone? Actually saying detects the package manager or OS details. Yes, Akhil, basically the Ohio tool, Prashant is asking, saying system configuration, Firoj is saying bootstrapping, Manoj is saying gather system information. Actually, Manoj is right because Feroz, it's not bootstrapping. Ohio tool will be used to gather system information. So it will collect all the information, all the attributes regarding the nodes and give that to the server. That is the use of Ohio. So similarly, in the case of Puppet, the tool is the tool that is used to collect the information, all the information about the node is called factor. Okay. Now, finally, like Chef, Puppet is also idempotent in the sense that if the change is already there, then it won't make any change. You can execute the same command multiple times, and if the change is already done, then it won't do anything. If you even if you execute a command 10 times, it won't affect. After the first time, it won't affect at all because it's already done. That is idempotent. So, like Chef, Puppet is also idempotent. Okay, so these are some common terms when you're talking about, like when you see Puppet, you will see these terms. Okay, so you'll see Puppet Labs, which is the company behind Puppet. Then Puppet is the open source version of the Puppet software that we'll be seeing. Then Puppet Enterprise is there, which is the commercial version. Then there is a community for Puppet, which is very active and very vibrant. Then Puppet documentation, which is the main and official reference for Puppet. And I should mention this, like the official Puppet documentation is very very good, and it is very useful. It is one of the most cleanly documented configuration management tool out there. So Puppet documentation is very good. You can like you will be able to understand, like if you have any doubt at all, you just need to go to the Puppet documentation and you will get a detailed explanation of all those things. So it is a very very good documented configuration management tool. Okay, now you can get Puppet module developed by other professionals from Module Forge or GitHub. So instead of reinventing the code or instead of reinventing the wheel, what you can do is you can reuse the codes created by others. So as DevOps professional, you should, like I am repeating this myself because this is a very important factor in your DevOps journey. So as DevOps professional, you should always try to reuse code. You should always try to check whether there is a solution for this already available in the internet or already created by someone else. Then you should try to use that one as far as possible. If there is anything custom that you are looking for, then you can develop on your own. But otherwise, if it is a common requirement, then you should try to use the community codes and community instructions. Okay, Rajeshri is asking, could you please explain what is module force? See, module force or GitHub, like modules created like Puppet, we'll be creating modules. We'll see what module is. So when you create that module, those modules created by others, like if I create a module and I want to share this particular module to the world, then what I'll do is I'll upload my Puppet module to module force. So if Rajeshri wants to get my module, then what Rajeshri will have to do is to just go to that module force and search for that particular module, and they'll get the module. Okay, so this is just a repo for that module. Okay, Rajeshri is asking any real-time example. Rajeshri, this is terminology. Like when you see module 4, you just need to understand that this is the repository where Puppet modules will be stored. That module can be stored in GitHub also. That is why we have specified GitHub here. So we'll be seeing in the upcoming slides, we'll be seeing how to search for modules and getting the modules. That we'll see. Okay, so now these are some related softwares when that are related to Puppet. You don't have to know about this. You just need to identify this. Like you just need to know that okay, this is there. You don't have to understand about these tools. So there are softwares like Factor, then mCollective, then Hera, Puppet DB, Puppet Dashboard, the Foreman, Gepetto. All these are softwares that are related to Puppet. In this one, the most important tool or software that we'll be using is Factor, which when you install Puppet in your server, the Factor tool will automatically be installed. So, but these are just tools. Like mCollective is used to infrastructure orchestration framework. It is a infrastructure orchestration framework for Puppet. Then here is key value lookup tool. All those things you just need to go through. Like if you want to go understand the details of this, you just need to search the internet. So Akhil is asking, what was the need to create Puppet if it is so similar to Chef? Any shortcomings in Chef? See, Akhil, that is what I mentioned. See, there are different tools that you can use for configuration management. Okay, so based on your requirement, you can decide whether you want to use Chef or Puppet or Ansible or any other configuration management tool. Like SaltStack is there. So it is up to you as DevOps professional to decide which configuration management tool you want to use. In the upcoming slides, you'll be seeing some more differences between Chef and Puppet. So after completing this Chef, Puppet, and Ansible, after completing these sessions, you'll know the difference between these tools. After that, based on your requirement, you can decide which configuration management tool you want to use. Okay, so These are some of the companies that are using Puppet. It includes PayPal, Motorola, Intel, Sony. There are a lot of companies that are using Puppet as configuration management tool. Then this is some general information like about Puppet, like it is created in 2005. So it is a relatively new tool. Then first commercial version is released in 2011 and all. Now Firoj is asking which one is popular out of three. Firoz, actually, I would say Ansible is the most popular among the three configuration management tool because it is simpler than say Chef and Puppet, but that is by a very small margin. So Chef, Puppet, and Ansible are very popular, but I would say Ansible is a bit more popular due to its simplicity. It is a bit more popular, but apart from that, both all three are popular. Okay, now we'll see how Puppet works. So first thing is define. Like first thing is to define the desired states of the infrastructure that you want. Using the Puppet declarative language or DSL, you'll be defining like I want this server to be in this state, I want the server to be in this particular state. That is what this defined state is. So initially you will be defining which state you want, like your desired state for the infrastructure you will specify. That is the first stage in Puppet. Now second thing or second stage is simulate. Like you will need to simulate the configuration changes to test whether they are correct before enforcing them. Like I mentioned, using Puppet, you won't be able to roll back. So since you won't be able to roll back easily, what you have to do is you have to ensure that what you are planning to do is what you need. For that, you will have to simulate. You will have to simulate the configuration changes to test whether they are correct before enforcing them. That is the second step. Third step is to enforce. So in this step, you are going to enforce this desired state that you have defined in the first stage to the nodes. So this is the stage where the actual configuration of a node will happen. Okay, so after enforcing, there is one state called report. So finally, like this is the final state in which the Puppet will report back the changes made to enforce the desired state. It will report the difference between the actual and desired state back to the tool. Like you will be able to use some third-party tool to get that information and all. Okay, so I'll explain once again. There are four stages in Puppet. First is define, where you will be defining the desired state for your nodes. Second is simulate, where you will be testing that desired state, testing your configuration before enforcing them. Third is to enforce that thing. Basically, this is where the configuration information will be applied to your nodes. So this desired states will be achieved during this enforce state. And finally, after enforce, the details regarding the actual state and the previous state will be reported back. That is the report state. Is this clear? Vivek, is it clear to you now? Okay. Sorry. Now we are going to see about Puppet architecture. Okay, so first thing that I would like to say is Puppet is also a pull-based configuration management tool. Like a Chef, Puppet is also a pull-based configuration management tool. Okay, Rajeshri wants me to explain that once again. So Rajeshri, in the case of Puppet, there are four states. First is four stages. First is define stage, where you will be specifying what you want to achieve, like what you want your node to be achieved, like what are the things that you want to configure in your node, that you will be defining in this define stage. Then in simulate stage, you will be simulating those changes. You will be before applying those configuration information on the nodes, you will be testing those information. That is what will happen in the simulate. Then the enforce is the stage where the actual configuration application will happen. So here the desired state based on this define will be implemented or enforced in the enforced inside the node in this stage. And finally the output like desired state and all those report will be reporting back. This is the report stage. Is it clear, Rajeshwari? Akil is asking all the stages will be accessible to user. Akhil, this here we are talking about DevOps user. If you are talking about DevOps professional, then yes, they will have control over all these stages. But if you're talking about end user, then no. This is for configuration. This is not for the end user. Okay. Now, Puppet architecture, as I mentioned, Puppet is also a pull-based configuration management tool, but instead of like compared to Chef, Puppet only has two components. Like Chef has got three components, right? Like workstation, Chef server, and node. But Puppet has only two components: Puppet master or server, or Puppet master server, and Puppet agent or node. Only two components that are there in Puppet. There is no concept of workstation in Puppet. Okay, so when compared to Chef and Puppet, Chef has three components like workstation, Chef server, and Chef node. But Puppet has only two components: Puppet master server and Puppet agent or node. So Puppet has no separate workstation. Server is where you will be working on in the case of Puppet. So there is no machine with knife command like Chef that you will be using for creating your configuration information. You will be working on the server itself in the case of Puppet. So next difference is that in Chef, the nodes will talk to only the server, and once to the workstation during bootstrap. Like except for bootstrapping, the nodes will only talk to the server in the case of Chef. But in the case of Puppet, the server will be the Puppet talks to the server, like which is also a workstation. So basically, the nodes will be communicating with your server constantly. Since there is no concept of workstation, there is no differentiation there. That is second difference between Chef and Puppet. Now, third is since there is no concept of workstation, there is no step of uploading recipes or cookbooks etc on the server, because you will be working directly on the server. You will be writing your codes, you will be writing your configuration information in the server itself. So there is no need to upload those things. So like in Chef, when after you write something in your workstation, you will have to upload using the knife tool, right? But that is not required in the case of Puppet because you are working on the server itself. So there is no separate requirement of uploading anything. Okay, so as a Puppet architecture, you will have your Puppet nodes, and Puppet nodes will have the Puppet agent installed. Since it is a push-based configuration management tool, sorry, pull-based configuration management tool, it will need one agent installed inside the nodes. So it will have the Puppet agent installed, and this agent will be constantly polling this Puppet master server, and from there only it will get the configuration information, and finally the configuration information is applied in the node by the Puppet agent itself. Okay, so this is the Puppet architecture. So clear? So Akhil is asking, so here no bootstrapping required. Akhil, no, there is no concept of bootstrapping in here. So the thing is, since there is no concept of bootstrapping here, what you have to do is when you create your node itself, you should have Puppet agent installed. You will have to install that because you won't be able to use Puppet to install that one since there is no bootstrapping. So your node should have Puppet agent installed since there is no bootstrapping. Okay, so this is the concept of Puppet masters and agents. So the various nodes will pull the configuration information from the Puppet server and will configure itself. So just like Chef, server doesn't do the configuration. It is done by the agent that is installed inside the nodes. Okay, so if it is a web server, then it will get one set of configuration information, and if it is an application server, then it will get another set of configuration instruction, and so on. Okay, now as I mentioned, Chef has got the master and the agent, right? Vivek is asking what is that web server and application server? Is it the nodes? Yes, this is just an example. Like if you have an infrastructure which has web servers and application servers, then you'll be required to configure those nodes separately, right? Like the configuration required for one set of node, like for web server, will be different from that of application server or database server. So you'll have to have different sets of configuration for different sets of nodes. That is what I meant by this particular graph diagram. And Vivek is asking, each web server will be running agent. Yes, each server will be running the agent. Then only that server will be able to pull the information from the Puppet server. Okay, is it clear, Vivek? So yes, you should have the agent running on each server. Okay, so now this is how the data flows from one individual node to Puppet. Sorry, individual node in Puppet. So Vivek is asking how it's used for which user. Okay, how is sure of which configuration to pull? Vivek, we'll see. When we see the examples, it will be clear to you. Okay. So now this is how the data flows from one individual node to for one individual node in Puppet. Okay, so first thing is facts. Like facts is the output of factor tool. Like I mentioned, there is a tool called factor which will collect the system information, and the output of factor is called facts. So like the output of Oha and Chef, facts will have the system information regarding the nodes, and all the details of the particular node will be there in standard format. So factor will be executed and collect facts about the nodes during each agent execution. Like in the case of Chef, whenever you execute the Puppet agent initially, whenever you execute the Puppet agent, at that time first you'll execute the factor and collect the facts regarding that particular node and send that information to the master. Okay, so this factor command will come when we install the Puppet agent itself. Now the factor will send the facts to the Puppet master. Okay, master will compare the state of the node, and if it doesn't match, it will compile a catalog. So catalog is like a set of commands, and this catalog is created to bring the node to the state. So from the factor, it will know what is the current state of that particular node is, right? So based on that node, that detail, and also the desired information that is there in the Puppet master, or desired state information that is there in the Puppet master, it will create a catalog which will have a set of commands to bring the nodes to the state. So this catalog specifies how the node should be configured, what are the changes required in that particular node. All these things will be there in this catalog created by the Puppet master. Okay, so this catalog is the one that will be pulled by the node and executed to make the changes in the node. Okay, so once it is done, once the changes is applied, once the changes is applied based on the catalog, the node will report the changes, report the details back to the Puppet master. Like it will report saying that okay, this was the original state, and this is the state after applying this configuration information. All this information will be reported back to the Puppet master, and if there is any API plugged into the master, then that will be able to get the report collected, or that will be able to get the report and display the report. You will be able to display your own reporting in using API calls. Okay, so Shreyas is asking when this factor will be triggered. Shreyas, this factor call will be triggered whenever the puppet agent is executed. Like in the case of chef, the puppet agent will be constantly polling the puppet master. So like periodically you can specify like every 30 minutes you want, if you want your node to be polling the puppet master, then every 30 seconds this factor will be executed. Okay, now Akhil is asking, is catalog part of Puppet Master? Yes, actually, catalog will be created by the Puppet Master. So we will be writing your code, your configuration information in Puppet Master. So based on the facts and your configuration information, Puppet Master will create the catalog, and that catalog is used by the node or pulled by the node to configure itself. Okay. Now Riza is asking, can we name node as factor? This I am not sure why you need to name a node as factor. Factor is a tool. Factor is a command line tool that comes along with Puppet. I'm not sure about the question. So Vivek is asking what is a node here. The node here is the Puppet node. So this is a node where you are going to configure. This is a node that you want to configure using your Puppet software or Puppet configuration management tool. Is it clear, Vivek? Now Shreyas is asking how much time will be required to complete this data flow. Shreyas, it will depend on the configuration information. See, to get the catalog or get the configuration information in the node, it won't take much time. But if there are say files, like if you're uploading a template and if there are files to be copied, then of course it will take time. But inside the node, the time will be determined by the actual time for the execution of those commands. Like execute, if it is the installation of a package, then based on the time required to install that package, the time will differ. So you can't specify how much time it will take to complete this data flow. It will depend on the configuration information. Okay, Reza is asking what is the difference between Puppet node and Puppet agent. Reza, Puppet agent will be installed, will be a command, will be a software installed inside the Puppet node. So inside Puppet node, when using Puppet agent, it will be constantly pouring the Puppet master. It is like that having that chef client in chef node, right? So that is the instead of chef client, in the case of Puppet, you have Puppet agent, which is installed in your Puppet node. Is it clear, Reza? So the tool that is used to pull the information from Puppet master from the Puppet node is called Puppet agent. Now Prashant is asking, the node here can be any app server, database server, right? Which we saw in previous. Exactly, Prashant. So the node can be application server or database server or web server. It can be any server. Okay. So I'll explain this once again. This data flow. First, this node will be polling the Puppet master. The Puppet node will be polling the Puppet master. So whenever the node is polled, the Puppet agent will be executed in the node. So that when the Puppet agent is executed, first it will execute the command called factor, and this will collect facts, and this facts will be sent to the Puppet master, and Puppet master will compare this facts and the configuration information that we created inside Puppet master, and it will create a catalog which will have the steps to be executed to achieve the desired state, and node will be pulling that catalog from the Puppet master, and node will execute that catalog and applying the configuration on itself, and once the configuration is done, the node will report the information back to the Puppet master, and from the Puppet master it can be exposed via API calls and all. Okay, so this is how the data flows in Puppet. Shreyas is asking, as it is mentioned, SSL encryption is being done. So, is there any need of maintaining SSL certificate for this purpose? Shreyas, we'll be seeing that in the upcoming slides. Okay. Now, this Puppet master agent interaction, as I mentioned, the node will have the Puppet agent installed, and it will send the facts to the Puppet server. The Puppet master will compile a catalog based on this facts. All of the changes made are placed in reports. Then one thing you have to keep in mind is that Puppet master and node communicate via SSL over TCP and port 8140. So one thing you'll have to keep in mind is that there is no SSH happening in the case of Puppet. There is no SSH required in the case of Puppet. All communication happen via SSL over TCP and port number 8140. So when you see the comments, this slide will be clear. So I hope I answered your questions, Reyes. Now nodes will pull the configuration from Puppet master. Okay, so let's proceed. Now there's like configuration items in the case of Puppet. Like individual configuration items are called resource declarations in case of Puppet. In Chef, can anyone tell me what is individual configuration item in Chef is termed? Can anyone tell me? Within the saying recipe, no, actually within the recipe is a collection of this configuration items. So the configuration item in Chef is called resource. No, individual configuration item, like each section that you are adding in the recipe is called a resource, right? So each configuration items in Chef is called resource, but in the case of Puppet it is called resource declarations. Okay, now a resource declaration answers these questions, like what aspect of the system is to be managed and what state do we want it in. All those things will be specified in the resource declaration. Like in this case, we are mentioning that okay, package SSH should be installed and the latest version of package SSH should be installed. So those the aspects of the system, what aspects, like here we are installing the package SSH, that is the aspect. Then state means you have to ensure that the latest version is installed. Okay, now resource declaration has these things, like it will have one type, it can be package, file or service. Then it will have a title, then it will have attributes or parameters that you can specify, then it will have a provider, which is optional. You can manually specify the provider, or based on the facts, Puppet will automatically identify the provider to use. Provider means the one which will apply the change. Like in the case of package, when you are using package services, the provider will be like if it is Ubuntu machine, then it will be a apt get. If it is CentOS, then it will be using yum, like that. Okay, now configuration language, like Puppet uses one configuration management like called Puppet DSL or Puppet domain specific language. So it has its own structure, like it will have a class definition, like Puppet has a class definition and class declaration. So those of you who have worked with object oriented concept, you will know what class is. This is the same concept. So you will have a class, you will be creating a class in the case of Puppet, and this class will have the details. You will be grouping the resource declarations that you want in a class, inside a class. Okay, the package resource declaration will identify which package and the state. Then configuration will is used to is for adding. This configuration is for adding the configuration file for the package. This is just an example of one package, sorry, example of one NTP service. So in this case, this particular package is to ensure that the software is installed or the package is installed, and the state, identify the state of that package. Then this section is to identify the configuration, like adding the configuration file for the package. And this is the survey section, which is to ensure that the package is enabled and running. So these are the various sections that you will be having in your Puppet execution. Okay, now this is the Puppet configuration language. Akhil is asking DSL is a language for Puppet. No, Akhil, actually Puppet DSL, which is Puppet domain specific language, is the language used in Puppet. But you'll be able to use basic Ruby language as well. But Puppet has its own twist added to it as well. So you can either use Ruby or you can use Puppet DSL, which is similar. It is more much simpler than Ruby actually. Okay, when we see the example, it will be clear to you. Okay, but DSL is not a language. It is actually Puppet DSL. Okay, now remember in this case the package has to be installed before the like when you're when you're adding the configuration information, the package need to be installed before that configuration, right? So for that one you can use terms like require and all. Like if you specify require package SSH, what it will do is it will ensure that this is executed first. This is executed, this section is executed before executing this one. So in the case of chef, it will be executed in the order in which that we write, right? Like if you specify say 3 resources in an order, it will ensure that it is executed in that particular order. But no, that is not the case with Puppet. In the case of Puppet, when you add resource declarations, there is no guarantee that it will be executed in this order. Maybe it can happen that it is executed in this order, but that is not the case always. So what you have to do is you have to manually specify the order. You will have to ensure that if there is any particular dependency or if there is any resource declaration that you want to execute before another declaration, then you will have to use keywords, so parameters like require, notify, subscribe, etc. So in this case, when you use require, it will require package SSH. What this means is that before executing this one, it should ensure it will require this particular resource declaration to be executed. Okay, and one more thing that you have to keep in mind is that in Puppet, everything is case sensitive. Okay, so if you see here, the package P stands with small capital letter, right? Sorry, a small letter, right? But here the package P is caps. It starts with capital letter. This is because when you write a resource declaration, at that time it will be small letter, but when you are referring to that particular resource declaration, then you will have to specify it as capital letter. It should start with uppercase. Is it clear? That is why it is said that in Puppet it is case sensitive. So you can't use capital P here, then it will give error. Okay, so here notify, and here you will see something called subscribe. So these are called meta parameters. Like what this means is, if you mention this notify, what it means is, okay, after executing this, it will trigger this particular service, it will notify this service. Okay, so when you are mentioning say subscribe, what it will do is it will ensure that whenever a particular, like in this place it is subscribing file ntp conf, right? So what it will do is this particular resource declaration will be executed when this execution is complete. So notify and subscribe are similar. So resource A notifying resource B is same as resource B subscribing to resource A. Okay, so these are some of the points that you will see in Puppet configuration language. Okay, so these are some of the examples in Puppet, like resource examples that are there in Puppet, like resource types. You have package, file, server, user, etc. There are around 53 resources there in Puppet. These are some examples of these resource types. Okay, now resource abstraction layer. There is something called resource abstraction layer in Puppet. So Puppet provides an abstraction layer between the platforms and your description of configuration. So resource abstraction layer, or RAL, refers to the components of Puppet that interact with the system. So this resource abstraction layer will ensure that the configuration, like the resource defined in Puppet to configure your nodes, are independent from the commands, formats, and syntax required to configure these nodes. Like when you get one output from Puppet, it will ensure that irrespective of the system in which it is run, whether it is a Windows machine or Mac machine or Linux machine, it will give the same syntax. The output will be in the same format or same syntax. Okay, so that is what this resource abstraction layer does. So now what we'll do is we'll go to the practice. In order to show this, I'll be showing this for that one. We'll go to the resource. Sorry, we'll be seeing some examples. There is asking, can you repeat RAL? There is a we'll see that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, first thing I have to do is I have to create a network. So I am using Docker. So Docker network create Puppet. I already have the network created, so I'll get the error. So if I go to my Docker network ls, you can see that Puppet network is already created. So this is a network that I'll be using for today's session. Okay, next thing is to create a Docker container for my Puppet master or Puppet server. Okay, so I'll use the command. I'll specify the network as Puppet. Then I am going to give the name for this particular node as Puppet. Then I'll specify the host name. You can specify the host name using ---- host name, as that also I'll be used as Puppet. Then the image name I'll use as /docker -puppet server -ubuntu. So this is the image that I am using, and what it does is I have created a container, and this container I'll be using as my Puppet server. Okay, now I like to execute the command factor. Like if I execute the command factor, you will see the details of this particular node, which is the server itself. So here you can see there are a lot of information that are being provided. These information are called facts. So now you can see this different format, like, or different structure or different format in this output, right? Like there is one thing called memory, swap, available, capacity, all those things. So whenever you, like, irrespective of where you execute this one, like whether it is a Windows machine or a Mac machine or a Linux machine, the output format that you will get will always be like this. Only the values will be different. That is what this RAL does. So when you have this RAL, what it will do is the resources defined in Puppet to configure your nodes are independent from the commands, formats, and syntax required to configure these nodes. So this RAL will ensure that irrespective of the underlying operating system of the node, the output that you will receive from the Puppet command is always of the same format. Okay, now Vivek is asking where this command is running, and this configuration is showing Puppet master or Puppet can. Vivek, actually when you install Puppet, at that time when you install Puppet on Puppet server, that time the factor also will be installed. So actually the factor tool will be there on both Puppet server and Puppet client, but the actual use of factor is only with the Puppet client. But since factor is already there in the Puppet server, since I want to show you the execution or output of factor, I just executed that in server. But normally when the Puppet configuration runs, at that time it will be executed only on clients. Okay, so now we'll come into help. So as I mentioned, Puppet has got one of the well documented help or documentation available in the market. So there are commands like Puppet describe. If you want to get the details of, say, Puppet describe command is there. So if you want to get the details of resource type file and want to know how to use it, then you just need to execute the command Puppet describe followed by the resource type, and it will show you what that resource type is and what are the options that you have. It will also show you the examples of how you can use that particular resource and all. Okay, similarly, if you want to see how to the usage for package resource, then you can use Puppet describe package like this. See, and here you'll be able to see how you can use that and all. So this is how you will be able to use that Puppet documentation. This is the Puppet help, which is very useful and very well documented. So Vivek is asking, so this is showing Puppet master underlying infra. Yes, Vivek, when I execute factor in this Puppet server, it is showing the underlying infrastructure configurations of my Puppet master. Regiza is asking how to install Puppet. Regiza will come to that. So this is the file directory. So this is the package. Then we'll see that. Okay, Reza, we'll see how to install that in the upcoming slide. So this one I executed now because I want to show you these commands. After that, I'll show you how to install Puppet. Okay. Now Akhil is asking, so you mean after installing Puppet agent, then also factor will be there and it show details of that particular node whenever executed. Exactly, Akhil. You are right. Okay. Now like I mentioned, Puppet documentation is very good. So one more thing that you have to do is you can do is like Puppet resource file, and if you say /etc, then it will show you how you can create a file resource with this particular name or this particular value. So it will show you the usage, like you can create a file resource, and if you want to create a directory like /etc, then this is the command that you have to use. This is a configuration instruction that you have to use. So Puppet will help you in those things. Similarly, if you want to know how to install a package, then if you want to see how to install a package wget, then what you have to do is you have to execute the command puppet resource package wget, and it will show you the configuration information that you can use to install that particular package. Similarly, if you want to see how to install Nano, then you can execute like this and it will show you how to install that using Puppet, how to add that configuration. Okay. Now, while this is happening, okay, no, it's okay. So now there is called something called transaction layer in Puppet. Sorry. So transaction layer. So Puppet's transaction layer is the engine of the Puppet client server deployment. So Puppet's engine is a Puppet's transaction layer. So a Puppet transaction layer encompasses the process of configuring each host, including these steps. Like it will interpret and compile our configuration, then communicate the compiled configuration to the agent, then apply the configuration on the agent, then report the result of that application to the master. Basically, the data flow that I have explained in the previous slide, all this is done by the help of Puppet's transactional layer. It is the engine of the Puppet client server deployment. Okay, so configurations are created and can be executed repeatedly on target hosts as Puppet is idempotent, but Puppet is not fully transactional. Like you cannot roll back in the case of Puppet. You can test transactions using NOOP to without applying them. We'll see how to test that one and all. But you just need to know that you can test your configuration, but there is no way you can roll back by default. If you want to roll back, then you will have to write your own commands. Okay, so these are some of the common terms that you'll see when you are talking about Puppet. First is resources. A resource, Reza is asking, repeat. Can you repeat transaction layer? Okay, this is I told you about the data flow for an individual node, right? Like it will be sending the facts to the thing, then the master will create a catalog, and that catalog will be pulled by the node, and node will send the report back to the master. So that particular thing, that particular flow, all these things are done with the help of transactional layer. It is the engine of the Puppet client server deployment. So it will do all these things, all these communication, like sending the facts, creating the catalog, then creating the report. All those things is done by this transaction layer. So basically, all those items or all those things are done by this engine called transactional layer. Okay, I hope I answered your question as well, Vivek. Now, resources. A resource describes something about the state of the system, such as a certain user or file should exist or package should install. This is similar to resources in Chef. Then there is something called manifest. So Puppet programs are called manifest. Like in the Chef, we have recipe. Instead of recipe, we have manifest in Puppet. So these file names use .pp extension. In the case of Chef, the recipes use .rb extension, right? But manifest, in the case of Puppet, manifest use .pp extension. Now there are something called classes. Classes are code blocks that can be called in a code elsewhere. These are just blocks of code which can reuse in various places. Okay, so there are two things in the case of classes. First is class definition, where you will be defining the class, where you will be writing the code, writing the class, and then there is class declaration, which is the way of using the class. We will see how these are done later, but you just need to understand that there are two processes in class. First is class definition, where the actual definition of the class will be written, and then there is class declaration, where that class we will use. This is how you will use that particular class that you have defined. Then there are something called modules. A module is a collection of manifests and data, and they have a specific directory structure. So modules is like cookbooks in the case of Chef. In the case of Chef, we have a folder structure called cookbook, which will have the recipe, then data, then files, templates, all those things, right? Similarly, in the case of Puppet, we'll have modules, and module will is a collection of manifest data such as facts, files, templates, etc. And it is just a directory structure. Okay, so now we'll go to the practicals. We'll see the installation of Puppet and all. So before that, we'll take a 15 minutes break. So now it's 8:20. We'll be back at 8:35. Okay. Hello and welcome back, everyone. So before we restart, can you please confirm that you guys can hear me well and see my screen? Okay, good. So before starting, Vivek has a doubt. Like, can you explain manifest again? Did you mean manifest, Vivek? Okay, so Vivek, manifest is a collection of resources. Like in Chef, we have recipe, right? The recipe file. Like you will have one file, .rb file, which is your recipe file, and you will have different resources inside that recipe file, right? Similar to that, in the case of Puppet, you have manifest file, and the extension for manifest file is .pp. Is it clear? Is it clear, Vivek? Okay, good. So now let's proceed. So this is how you can install, like for Debian, Ubuntu, you can use apt-get to install. For client, you can install just Puppet, and for server, you can install Puppet Master. For CentOS, Red Hat, and all, you can use yum to install. Directly, you can install Puppet and Puppet Server. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, we will be using Docker, and in our Docker container, sorry, for our Docker, we'll be using the image that I have used. Okay, now, so sorry. So create repos. So these are things that you should need, like create repos for Puppet Lab. Then this is to set up software repositories to get the latest version. Then update the repository. Then install Puppet agent on nodes. Install Puppet server on the Puppet server. These are the things that you have to do. So since we are using Docker, if you use the Docker image that I have used, then you will have these things pre-installed. Okay, so now let's go to practical. So as you know, this is my Puppet. Sorry, this is my Puppet server, right? So inside my Puppet server, there are a set of steps that you have to do. Okay, so now we have created, like, first you have to create the Puppet network. Then you have to create the Puppet server using this command. Here, one thing is, make sure that it is inside network Puppet, and the name and host name should be Puppet. Okay, this is the image that we are using, and after entering into that server, first thing that you have to do is you have to execute this command: service puppet server start. So service puppet service puppet sorry, service puppet server start. Okay, so this will take some time depending on your system. So while this is happening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my node. Okay, so for that also I'll use docker run minus ta minus minus rm. Then here also I'll use the same network, which is Puppet. Then I'll give the name as, say, Puppet node 1. Then minus minus host name also I'll give as Puppet node 1. Then the image that I'm going to use is Puppet Choni / docker hyphen Puppet node hyphen open. Okay, so only thing is this particular image has got that Puppet pre-installed. This particular image has got that Puppet server, Puppet hyphen server, that pre-installed. Okay, so now my Puppet node also is running. Here the command service Puppet server start is now up and running. Is the command execution is complete. Now Riza is asking, there is sync issue with my voice and display. Can all of you hear me well and see my screen? Can you please confirm? Okay, Riza, it looks like others are able to hear me and see my screen. So please check your settings. Okay. So as I mentioned, the first thing that you have to execute is Prashant is asking how can we control Puppet server is started. Prashant, see, when I execute this one, when once I get the terminal back, that means the command is executed and that particular server is started. If you get any error, that means there is error starting the server. So that is the reason why I was like, it will take some time for this to happen. So that is the reason why in the meantime I executed this command. I created the node for you. Okay. So Nainendu is asking, you can do service puppet status. Why do you want to do that, Nainendu? This is to start the Puppet server. See, when you start the Puppet server, first you have to do is you have to ensure that this particular service is up and running. That is what we executed here. And just saying we have to execute this command. Yeah, if you execute this command, then it will show that if it is running or not. Oh, okay, you are answering that question. Okay, thanks, Nanendu. So, Prashant, if you want to know whether the Puppet server is running or not, you can execute the command service Puppet server status to see whether it is running or not. Okay, now Akhil is asking, so now port 8120 will be busy. No, actually the port will be 8140 inside this network, inside this particular network. 8140 port will be used by Puppet. Okay, so now there is something like we'll see. Go to the presentation. So next thing what you have to do is like this one you can ignore. Next thing you have to do is you have to execute the command puppet cert list. What this will do is this will list the certificates that are there to be signed for your particular server, Puppet server. Okay, so now as I mentioned, the communication between say Puppet nodes and Puppet server will happen via SSL TCP port 8140, right? So for that one to happen, there is something called certificate signing for secure SSL. For SSL communication, we'll need certificate signing. So in order to get the list of nodes that are waiting to be signed with certificates that are waiting to be signed, you have to execute the command puppet cert list. If there is no, if it gives empty, that means there are no certificate waiting to be signed by for the server. Okay, now Vivek is asking, so now the facts file will show that the Puppet server is running or not. No, Vivek, fact server is to show the state of the like get the information about the system. Like if the what is the operating system, then what is the memory, what is the RAM, what is the kernel, all those things will be there in fact. But I don't think there is like Puppet server detail will be there in that one. If that was an attribute, then it would have been there. But by default, I don't think that is an attribute that is there, because one thing is, see, Puppet server will only be there in a Puppet server, right? But this facts will be mostly executed, or this factor will be mostly executed in the client, so it won't have this Puppet server running. Okay, so now once you create this particular container, you'll see the Docker file that is used to create this container also inside this one. So here using this, you'll see that what are the commands that I use to create this image. So here you can see that like from I am using this Ubuntu trusty image, then maintainer you can just ignore, then env I am using the environment variables that Puppet needs. Then using run, I am using apt get update, then installing SSCA certificate, then nano wget and all. Then I am installing Puppet agent and Puppet server. Okay, so this is just replacing the memory. Then here it is ensuring that it is enabled and running. Then here we are exporting the path. Then here we are copying the code, and this is the file. This is the line where the current Docker file is copied. So when you create the container, you will get that Docker file also, so that if you want to try out on your own or create your own image, then you can do with this Docker file. Okay, in the case of our node, this particular line won't be there because their Puppet server is not required. Okay, now Vivek is asking, and the client information is stored in fax file which is accessible by Puppet server. Vivek, yes, actually, the information that is sent by the node will be available, will be accessible to the Puppet server. So it will be then the Puppet server. It won't be then Puppet fold. Puppet fold is only for sharing the modules. It has nothing to do with Puppet server and node. So Akhil is asking, so agent need to be installed in Puppet server also. Akhil, it is advisable to install agent because you will be testing those things, right? Like if you want to execute factor command and all, try out factor commands and all in your Puppet server, then you should have that. So it is advisable to have that. Okay. Okay. So now let's proceed. Now in the case of like I mentioned, when I execute Puppet cert list, it will show you the certificates that are available to be signed by the Puppet server, right? So now the first thing that you have to do when you start a node is to execute the command. Like you will be executing the Puppet agent, right? So this is the agent, like Puppet agent you'll be executing using Puppet space agent command. So if you execute this one, it will be periodically. You'll be able to schedule that periodically. Okay, but if you use say -10, this is to run once as test. So the first time when the Puppet agent is executed, at that time what it will do is, from the node, when the first time when you execute Puppet agent, what it will do is it will create a new SSL certificate, it will create a new SSL key, and that key will be shared with this one. Now after executing that command, if you do Puppet cert list here, you will see that particular new certificate is now available for this particular server to be signed. Is it clear? And it will show the host name as well. So this host name with this key is now available to be signed. Okay, so the next job of this Puppet server is to sign this particular certificate. For that, what you will do is you will execute the command Puppet cert sign followed by this node name. This name you will give. Okay. Now Vivek asked a very important question. How will the agent know with which Puppet server I need to connect? I need to contact. So Vivek, I should upload this question because it is a very important question. So do you remember, like when I created this particular node, when I created this particular when I created this particular container, I used the name of this particular container as Puppet, right? And I used the network as Puppet. When I created this one, I used the same network. So what this node will do is node will search for a server with name Puppet in that particular network. So by default, the nodes will be looking for the server with name Puppet, with host name as Puppet. But if you want to specify a different name for your host, then what you do is when you execute this, you have to use minus minus server followed by that server name you have to specify. Okay, since we use the default Puppet name, it is automatically able to connect to that particular server. Okay, so now when we created this one, we have specified the name, the host name and name for this container as Puppet, right? So what the node will do is in the same network, by default it will look for a server, a server named Puppet. This is the default name that it will look for. It will assume that if you don't specify minus minus server, then it will assume that this Puppet server resides, it has the name, has the host name as Puppet. Okay, now Akhil is asking, so every node will have different key. Yes, Akhil, so every node will have different keys. which need to be signed by the server. Now Prashant is asking, does the certificate have any expiry? No, Prashant, the certificate doesn't have any expiry. So Riza is asking, will there be a single Puppet server or else multiple servers, because you said Node will look into server name. Riza, there will only be a single Puppet server, and that server name is Puppet by default. It will look for a server named Puppet by default. Puppet by default. Okay. Okay. Now this particular certificate is signed. Now once again, if I execute this command puppet cert list in the server, you can see that there is, you'll see that, okay, now there is no certificate to be signed because we already signed the certificate. Now if you want to get the list of all the certificates signed, you can use the command minus minus, you can use the flag minus minus all. So puppet cert list minus minus all will give you all the certificates that are signed, but signed in this particular container, no particular container. So here you can see the puppet node 1, and this is for the same machine, the local machine. Okay. Now the next time when you execute puppet agent minus t in your node, what it will do is it won't be creating a new SSL. It will know that, okay, certificate is already there, and it will execute. Please ignore this error because it is due to my system, so switching to my system. But now it is, don't create anything, and it is trying to load any configuration information if there is anything there or not. Like if there is anything specified, then it will be added here, or it will be pulled here. Okay. Now if you want to clean, or if you want to remove an existing connection and reassign, what we will do is we will see that. So Vivek is asking, loading config information related to this node from Puppet node. Vivek, I didn't understand your question. Can you please elaborate on that one? Okay, so as I mentioned, next I am going to see how to remove this connection. So now the connection is already established. We will see how to remove this connection. For that, what you have to do is you have to execute the command puppet cert clean followed by that node name, which is puppet node 1, this particular node name. Okay, when you execute this one, when you execute this one, what it will do is it will revoke the permission of the certificate, and it will remove that certificate from the server. So now when I execute puppet cert list minus minus all, you will see that this particular entry won't be there at all. It won't be there anymore. See, that entry is removed. Okay. Now, but when I execute puppet agent, it won't create a signed segment, because here you haven't removed. Only connection from server to node you have removed. From node to server, it's there. So if you want to remove that, what you have to do is you have to search for a file, like inside this /etc. There is some called a folder called Puppet Labs. Then there Puppet, and inside that you'll have one SSL folder, and here you have to look for a file with name that node puppet node 1.pem. Okay, so it will have the pem files in this one. So this is the file that will be signed by this one. So unless you delete these files, you won't be able to terminate the connection from node to server. So what you have to do is you have to copy and rm each and everything. You have to do rm. Okay, so I'll remove that key. You have to manually remove that key. Okay, so now I have removed that particular key. Now if I execute this find once again, you will see that that key is no longer there. So now if I execute puppet agent minus t, can anyone tell me what will happen? Vivek is asking, is it loading puppet config information related to node from a puppet server? Yes, Vivek. Since we haven't specified, it is not doing anything. But if you have specified anything, then it would have pulled that on. Okay. Now, Akhil is sorry, Prashant is saying, can a Puppet node residing on one network be able to communicate to other Puppet server residing in another network? It is possible. Only thing is it should be accessible from outside the network. If it is accessible from outside the network, then if you specify minus minus server followed by the IP address or the host name, then it should be able to access. Okay, but as you know, in the case of Docker, by default, containers within like between networks are not able to talk to each other. Okay, so Akhil is saying new key generate. Yes, Akhil. So when you execute Puppet agent minus T now, it will create a new key. So this will be like initial execution of Puppet agent. So see, it is creating a new SSL key, and after that, after doing that, what you have to do is we have to go back here, and here you have to do Puppet cert list, and here you will see the new key listed. See, you can see the new key. Next, what you have to do is you have to do sign. Sorry, you have to do Puppet cert sign followed by that particular node name. Okay, or the key name. So this is how you can remove an existing connection and reassign. Okay. Okay, so now we have the connection between this node and this Puppet server. Okay, so let's proceed. So this one we saw how to sign. Then this one also we saw. Then minus agent T. This we saw. Okay, so these are the various ways of running sorry, Puppet. So first is Puppet apply followed by manifest name. We will see that as example. But run Puppet agent as service. If you execute my Puppet agent without any minus T, it will run every 30 minutes by default. Then if you specify Puppet agent minus T, it will execute the agent once as a test. Vivek is asking, where do we get the Docker file using which we can install Puppet? Actually, see, this is the node that I create. So this is the container that I created for the node. So here, if I do say cat / Docker file, you will have the Docker file that I used to create this particular image as well. So here you can get that. Okay. Now this one we saw. Now we'll see how to run Puppet module. Okay, so in order to do that, for what we'll do is first we'll try to install a module from the net. Okay, so for that, what you have to do is you have to go to this particular website, force.puppet.com. Okay, here you can search for the module that we want to use. Vivek is asking, I thought we have to create manually and then use this Docker file. No, Vivek, if you want to create your own image manually, then you can use this Docker file, this or this Docker file. But if you don't want to use, I already have created the image and this is the image name. If you use this image name, then you will have the same image as mine. Okay, so in this Docker file, I have the commands to install this agent, Puppet agent. See how to install Puppet agent is there in this Docker file. So the command to install Puppet is there in the Docker file. Okay. Vivek is saying, can we get that? Vivek, if you create a container from this image, which is a public image, you will get the Docker file. When you try out the examples that I am showing you, you will get the Docker file inside your container. Okay. Okay, good. So here you'll be able to search for your module. So I am going to search for a module named MOTD. So I'll search for that module. And here you will see a list like this. One thing you have to make sure that you have to click this link, not this one. If you click this one, it will show you the modules that are created by Puppet Labs. But if you click this one, you will be taken to the modules page. Okay, so here you will see the details regarding that particular module. So here you will see the command to be installed. command to install this particular module, and this is what we are going to use. So this is the command. So I am copying this command, and now what I'll do is instead of before executing, what I'll do is I'll go to the folder /etc Puppet Labs code environments production. So Vivek is asking, what does this module do? What does this module do? Vivek, this is just a module, like this is like message of the day. It will create random messages each day. That is the purpose of this module. This is a simple module. Just to show you as an example, I am using this one. Okay. So now in the case of Puppet, this is the place where the codes will reside. Your configuration information will be residing, and here you will be creating environments. You will have environment folder, and here I am using production environment. So if you have, say, if you want to create information in testing environment, then you can create environment testing, and inside that you can do all those things. Okay. Now if you do ls modules, you can see MOTD, register, and std. This MOTD is already installed. Okay, so but again, in anyway, I'll try to execute this once again. Let me see. Let's see what will happen. Okay, so I just pasted the command, which is puppet module install puppet lab puppet labs hyphen MOTD minus minus version 1.8.0. Okay, so now it is saying that module is already installed, because this particular thing, when I copied, I copied this MOTD as well. So that is the reason why it is saying, but the version that is installed is 1.4.0. Okay, so now what you have to do is you have to either uninstall this module and install it once again, or you can use module install minus minus force to force install. I'll show you how to uninstall the module. For that, what you have to do is that you execute the command puppet module uninstall followed by the module name. This is the module name. Okay, so this will uninstall that particular module. So after this, if I execute, say, ls module, you can see that MOTD module is now removed. Now I'll be able to install this fresh version. Okay, see, it is downloading from the Puppet Forge, and it is installing it into this directory. Okay, so sorry. So now the installation is complete, and the version is version 1.8.0, which is the one that we have mentioned. So now if I do ls modules, then you will have the MOTD module. So Vivek is asking, you said it's idempotent. Now it should have ideally updated that module, right? No, see this, see Vivek and Akhil, here what we are doing is we are manually installing the module. We are manually installing the module. The idempotent feature is when the configuration information is executed in the node. Here you are, this module is about configuration. This is the configuration information. In order to write your configuration information, you are installing the module. So this module you are using as a configuration information. Please don't confuse this with the actual execution of configuration. The idempotency is for the nodes. When the node execute the modules or manifest to configure itself, at that time it is idempotent. Okay, is it clear, Akhil? Okay, good. So now, as you can see, this module is there. Sorry. Now, like I mentioned, like first thing that you have to do is to test or simulate the module in your server, right? For that, what you have to do is you have to execute the command puppet apply minus minus no. Okay, followed by minus e. If you give, say, minus e, you'll be able to execute execute the Puppet DSL command as such, like okay. So in this mode MOTD, I would like to, okay, so what I'll do is I'll show you three modules MOTD. Here these are the files that are pulled and inside there is one folder called manifest, and inside there is one file called init.pp. So this is the file which will have the configuration information. Okay, so let me do, say, less modules motd manifest init.pp. Okay, so here at the beginning of that class, beginning of that init.pp file, that manifest file, you have one class motd. So all the manifest will file, the correct structure is to have a class. So you have this class, right? So if you want to include this particular module inside your configuration information or inside your custom configuration file, then what you'll do is you'll be including it as like include motd include like this. This is like the normal class include in the case of C or C sharp, like that. Okay, so you'll be using include motd. So when you use this puppet apply minus minus noop minus e, here you'll specify how you'll use it inside, like how you'll be using it inside a manifest file. Like if you execute this include motd here, this will be like executing the command, executing this Ruby command or this particular Puppet DSL command as such. That is the use of this minus e flag. He is asking by default we use Puppet DSL and not Ruby. Akhil, by default we'll be using this Puppet DSL, and it already has the provision to decipher the Ruby commands. Okay, so now I'll execute this one. What this command does is like I'll show you in the presentation. See, this minus e flag allows us to execute Puppet code directly via the command line. Okay, so use NOP mode where Puppet runs in a no op or dry run mode. This is useful for seeing what changes Puppet will make without actually executing the changes. So when we execute that NOP command, Puppet apply with minus no command, what it will do is it will show you what are things will happen if you execute this command. It won't actually execute the command, but it will show you what are things that will happen. See, it will show you, okay, this particular file like motd file, this particular file is absent, current value is absent. So when you execute this, it will be a file, it will be there. Currently it is absent, but if you execute without no op, it will create that file. So it will tell you what is the functionality of this particular module and all. This is clear? So now if I want to test this particular module inside my server without like actually test, then what I have to do is I have to remove this no command. Okay, so now this will actually execute the command. So execute the module inside my server. So see here, it has created a file. So in this particular case, like ls minus l slash etc slash motd, just created this file. Just now only this file is created. It was earlier it was absent, but now it is there. Is it clear? Now, so this is what is done. Like inside this init.pp, that the command that they have specified is to create a file like this. Okay, so now if I do this minus noop command once again, what it will show you is that it will show you sorry, I have executed the command with minus noop. It will show you that there is no changes to be applied. Like you won't see this, right? See, yeah, you don't see these things like this absent and it should be filed. So all those things are not there because now there is no change that will be done when you execute this command. That is what this is showing. Okay, is this clear? Any doubt in this one? Okay, so now one thing that I have to reinforce is that module has to be installed on the Puppet server, not the Puppet node. Okay, this is very important. Okay, so this module, what I did is I executed that Puppet install command. I executed the Puppet install command, and that install command, using that, you should install the module only on Puppet server, not on the Puppet node. On the Puppet node, when whatever recipes or whatever modules that are required, it will be pulled by the Puppet node from the Puppet server. So you will be installing these modules in the Puppet server itself. Okay. Now Akhil is asking, can you tell once more regarding this? No. Okay. So Akhil, when you execute Puppet, apply minus minus NOOP followed by minus E and the command to be executed, what it will do is it will show you what will happen if you execute this command. If you execute this command, what will happen? It will show you. If you use minus minus NOOP flag without actually making the change, it will show you that this particular file is absent. It is absent, but when you execute, it will be enabled. Like this file will be created. Okay. So when I executed that command without this minus minus NOOP flag, what it did, it went ahead and created that file. So it created that file like how this NOP told us that it will do. Is it clear, Akhil? Now Vivek is asking, how do we sure which module we need to install in Puppet server, which may or may not be needed by the Puppet node? Vivek, that will come to that. Okay. Now Akhil is asking, okay, yes, it created in node also. No, Akhil, as of now, it is not created in the node. We have just tested in our Puppet server. We will see how to run this in the node. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, we'll be installing the module inside this particular server, right? So what if, like, I'm going to went ahead and uninstall the module once again. Okay, module uninstall, then Puppet Labs MOTD. So now what I am doing is I have uninstalled the module from my server. So if I do ls minus l modules, you can see that particular module is not there anymore. Now one more thing, when I uninstall the module, can anyone tell me, will this file be deleted or it will be there? Can anyone tell me what will happen? This particular file, this etc motd file, will it be there or not when I deleted the module, when I uninstalled the module? Can anyone tell me? Akhil is saying it will be there. Feroz is saying it will be there. Prashant is saying present, file will be present. Ajinke is saying will be there. Exactly. So now we just only uninstall the module. So when I look into it, that file will be there because we did. This is not like rollback. We are just uninstalling the module. We didn't do anything. The file will be there as residue. Yes. Okay. So now I'll go here, and if you do say puppet agent minus t, it will give error. Okay, so first it will ensure that the certificate signing is there and it is able to communicate. It is using the environment as production, and see, it is giving error, could not retrieve catalog from the so, and this particular class is not found, it is giving. So that means by default, or that means this particular MOTD class or particular MOTD module is configured to be configured to be allocated for this particular module. Oh, sorry, this particular node, which is Puppet node 1. Okay, so for that, like Vivek asked, will it be executed in Puppet node 1, or how will we assign this particular module to a particular node? Okay, so we'll see how to do that, or where this is done. Okay, so meanwhile Prashant is saying my screen is lagging. So does any of you have the same issue? Vivek is saying yes, Virendra is saying yes, but Ajinkya and Firoz is saying no. Virendra, Vivek, Prashant, others are able to create, like some of you are able to see my screen without lag and others are able to see with lagging. That means there is some connection issue on your end. Okay, so please check your connection. Okay, so as I mentioned, we'll see how that connection is made, how we have meant where it is specified that okay, this particular Puppet Node 1 should install the module or should execute the configuration information in this MOTD module. So in this particular production folder, you will see one folder called manifest. Okay, so here inside manifest, you will have one file called site.pp. So this is the default manifest file. So inside this production environment, this inside manifest, there will be one file called site.pp, which will be considered as the default configuration, sorry, default manifest file. Okay, so if you see that manifest file, here it is mentioned like, okay, inside for node Puppet node 1, it should include this MOTD module. See this one. This is the reason why it is looking for MOTD module. Since this is Puppet node 1, it is looking for MOTD module. Is it clear? So if I remove this, like if I do, sorry, nano manifest site.pp, and here I'll just comment this one. Okay, so I commented that one. Now if I do apt get apt agent, Puppet agent minus t in my node, what will I get? Will I get any error? See, there is no error because now this MOTD module is not configured to be there in that node. That is the reason why it is not giving any error, because it is commented. Earlier it gave me error because it is configured to be there and that particular module is not there in the server. That is the reason why I was getting the error. Like now I put it back. I added this MOTD module, and now if I execute Puppet agent t minus t once again from the Puppet node 1, it will give me the error because that MOTD module is not there in the server. Then only it will be able to pull the module and execute that configuration information on itself. Okay, Vivek is asking how is this file created. Vivek, you'll have to create like when you create a new environment, inside that you'll have to create a manifest folder and create site.pp. So this one was already there because when I created the Docker file itself, I created this inside my Docker file. I copied one code folder, right? That code folder had this environment and this site.pp. This is clear. Akhil also has the same dot. Akhil, is this clear? So this is not created when you created the certificate. This is created by the Docker file that I used. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll install that module once again. So I'll install that MOTD module once again. Ajinkya is asking, is indentation important in this manifest file? Ajinkya, actually, no. Indentation is not that important in manifest or in Puppet DSL, but it is recommended to do that. The correct syntax is to have good indentations and all, but it is not. It won't give you any error if you miss an indentation. But for human readable purpose, it is advised to have indentation and all, proper indentation and all. Okay, so now MOTD module is installed, and before that let me execute ls minus l slash etc slash, oh sorry, so I'll execute this one. I'll remove this node also has that one, so let me remove that file. Sorry, okay, so let me remove this file. So that file is not there. So now if I do this Puppet agent, what it will do is it will now pull that MOTD module and execute that inside your Puppet Node 1. So while this is happening, Ajay is asking, is there any CLI way to do indentation in such files? No, Ajinkya. Unfortunately, there is no CLI way to do indentation in such files. Okay, so now if I do ls-l, you can see that particular file is created. See, this is how you will be executing, or this is how you will be specifying what to do, and or like this is how we'll be specifying. Okay, this particular node will have to have this particular connection and all. Is this clear? Any doubt? Any doubt till this point? Anyone? So Akhil is asking if we edit. Okay, so if we edit the MOTD file, will it be overwritten to new? No. Yes. So like if you have some other file content, like 1 minute, let me do this cat. So this is the file content now. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the file content, or say dummy text. Okay. So I change the content of that file. So this is the content of the file now. Okay. Now I'm going to do Puppet agent -t. So when after executing that one, first it will check whether that file is there, and after that it will check the content of the file. See, content change. We'll get the command as content change. Now if I do this cat this one, you will see the content has changed to the previous one, like how it is specified in that particular module. Did I answer your question, Akhil? Okay. So one more thing I want to show you is this. In this one, this is the server. So here, if you do netstat, say -nap 5 grep 8140, you can see that 8140 is listening. So this is the port, as I mentioned, is used for TCP or SSL communication by Puppet. Okay, this is just to show you that that is there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own manifest file. I'm going to show you how to create your own manifest file. Okay, so as I mentioned, we'll be creating the manifest file inside the manifest folder. So I'm going to create one test.pp manifest file, and here what I'll do is I'll specify one. Okay, I'll specify one thing called like uh, this is the resource type. So here in curly bracket, I'll specify the path or the name of the file like test.txt. I'll create, and then content, and here I'll give the name like content of the file, like this is created from test.pp manifest file. Okay, and I'll close the resource. So this is a file resource, and this is the path. This is the file that I want to create in this location, which is the root location, and this is the content that I want the file to have. Okay, so I'll save this one. So if I do cat manifest test.pp, this is the content of my manifest file. So now what I have done is I have created a new manifest file. Okay, so if I do ls slash ls-l slash, you can see that there is no file called test. So next what I'll do is I'll use puppet apply -noop. Then if you want to execute a manifest directly, what you can do is you can execute the manifest, like you can give the path manifest slash test, the manifest file path you can specify. Now this will show you without executing what will happen if I execute this manifest file. Okay, so it will create a file, but if you want to show, like if I execute this without this no, it will create that file inside my server. Okay, so now it is executing that one. Now if I do ls minus l, you can see this test.txt. If I do say cat test.txt, you will see the content as I specified in the manifest file. Okay, now I have showed you how to execute manifest directly, right? So that is not the actually that is not the best way to do. Best way is to create a module on your own. Create your own module and have that configuration information inside that module. So we will see how to create a module to apply this inside for nodes. Okay, so if you for that I'll go to ls minus l modules. These are the current modules that are there. So in order to create a new module, what you have to do is you have to create a directory in this particular folder. So mkdir minus p, I'll create inside the modules folder. I'll create a module called test. This is the module name that I am going to use, which is test. And I am going to create a manifest folder inside that module. And inside that manifest, I am going to create my manifest file. So there, like nano modules test. So now before that, if I do ls minus l modules, you will see this new module created. So if I do tree modules test, you will see this is the current structure. So now I'm going to create an init.pp. This init.pp is the default manifest inside a manifest folder, inside a module. Okay, so if you see one file named init.pp, it is the default manifest that will be executed when you execute that module. Okay, so nano modules test manifest init.pp. I am going to create a file called init.pp, create a new manifest file. So here I'll give the class name as test. So I'm giving the class name as test. Now I'm adding the file resource here. So here I'll give say slash test file.txt. Then I'll specify the content as this is the test file content created using custom module. Okay, now I'll save this file. So this particular init.pp has only one class. I have created a class which is class name is test, and I have created a file resource inside that one, and it is used to create a file named testfile.txt in root path, and the content of that file should be this one. Okay, so now I have created the file. Okay, so next thing what I have to do is, now if I execute this puppet agent minus t in this node, will that particular module be executed? Can anyone tell me? No. Prashant is saying no. Prashant, can you tell me why? Mahesh also is saying no. So those who are saying no, can you tell me why? Okay, meanwhile, Akhil is asking, does class and folder name should be same? Akhil, it is advisable to have the folder name or the module name and the class name inside the init to have the same name in order to avoid confusion. But you can have multiple manifest files inside your inside the same module, and you can have different name for the classes in that case. But you can have two manifest files with same class name. That is not possible. Okay, now Mahesh is asking saying because we need to use puppet apply command in the server. No. See, puppet apply command we are executing the server is to test the module. So now what should I do for that to be applied here, applied in this particular puppet node 1? Will I, if I execute this, like if you do say ls minus l slash, you will see that test file is not here. If I execute my puppet puppet agent minus t inside my node puppet node 1, then also it won't be there, like it is executing. Nanendu is saying puppet dot site dot pp is missing. Exactly, we have to add one entry in site dot pp. Okay, so now see, that is not there, that test file is not there. This is the old module that we have specified. Okay, so now what you have to do is you have to edit the site.pp. So nano manifest site.pp, and here what you have to do is you have to include our module, which is the module name test. Okay, so I'll save this. Now if I execute this one, now if I execute puppet agent, it will also pull my module, the module that I have created with name test, and it will execute that module. Okay, now if I do ls minus l, you will see the test file.txt. Now if I do cat text file, you will see the content that I have specified. So now using this particular module, you have configured this particular node. This is clear. And one more thing, see this test.txt already created. That is because whatever files that are inside this manifest folder, like ls manifest, if you have this test.pp and site.pp, right? So all those things, like if you just have a manifest file inside that one, then it will automatically execute that manifest file. That is the reason why we won't be creating independent manifest file. We'll be using modules. Okay, now I want to show you one more thing before winding up. So Akhil is asking, where is the catalog file here? See, Akhil, catalog file this Puppet server will create when node execute Puppet agent. At that time, Puppet server will create. That is not visible for the end user. Like for DevOps professional, you won't be able to see that. That is internal. Puppet server will be creating that internally. That is the thing that is being pulled by this Puppet node. Okay. Okay. Now I am going to create another container for another node. Run minus a minus minus rm minus minus network, so network puppet, then minus minus name puppet node 2. This is the name that I am giving. Host name also I'll give the same, puppet node 2. Then I'll use the same image, Shogini docker hyphen puppet node hyphen. Okay, so I have created a new node. Okay, first thing what I have to do is I have to execute the puppet node in here, puppet agent minus t, and once it will create an SSL certificate. And now inside here I have to execute puppet cert list, and it will show the new SSL in the thing. Next thing is to sign this particular key, which is puppet cert sign followed by puppet node. Vivek is asking, what are you showing now? Vivek, I'll show you. When I show you, it will be clear. I'll explain it after that. Okay. So now this puppet node, like I created a new node, new puppet node, which is puppet node 2, and I have added, I have signed. Now, so the signing is clean now, complete now. Okay. So before that, I'll remove from this manifest file, I'll remove this test.pp because I won't be needing that. Okay. So now if I execute say puppet agent minus t in my puppet node 2, I'll get one error. So this is since this is the first time they'll try to execute this one, but after that when it tries to execute the configuration information, at that time it will give you an error. It is saying could not find node statement with name default or puppet node 2 on node puppet node. This is because see in our site.pp, like nano inside our site.pp, there is no entry for puppet node 2. That is the reason why you are getting this error message. So you should either have one entry like this for Puppet Node 2 or any node that you want to configure, or you should have something called default. Okay, so this, if you have some entry like this, that means this will execute all the things that are there to be applied to those nodes that are not specified explicitly here. Like I have added this node here, this one here. So if you do cat manifest and site.pp, you have this node default here, right? So now if I execute this puppet agent minus t in my puppet node 2, what it will do is it will now execute the modules that are there by default. Okay, so now since there is no module specified by default, it is not doing anything. So if you do say ls minus l slash, see, it didn't create anything. So what you have to do is, if you want our test module to be executed on all nodes, what you can do is you can go to this one, and inside this default you can specify include test. So this is the current manifest content, and now if I execute this a puppet agent minus t, then it will execute my module in this particular node. See here in this site.pp, I haven't specified the module by name. I have only used default. That means the default name, if you specify, it will be applicable for all the nodes except for these explicitly mentioned nodes. So for any node, if you create Puppet node 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, for all those things, this will be applicable. Similarly, you can have regex also in here, that we'll see in the next session. But see, now that test module is executed in our Puppet node 2 as well. Now if you do ls minus l slash, you will see the test file.txt. So if you do cat this file, you will see the content. Is this clear? Similarly, if you want to have, like, if you don't want to use nano, then what you can do is you can directly give, like here you can give like puppet node 2. This also is similar, this also is correct. But if you do like this, then if you create a new node named puppet node 3, then you'll have to add one more entry with node puppet node 3. But if you have default here instead of this specific nodes, then that default will be applicable to any nodes that are not specifically explicitly mentioned in that site.pp. Is it clear? Is it clear? Any doubt in the topics that we covered today? Anyone? Okay, so this one we saw, this one also we saw. So these are the homeworks that you should try. So whatever that I have mentioned, you should try as homework. Okay. Now Manoj is asking, if we execute Puppet agent, then Puppet agent will be continuously run in background. Yes, Manoj, it will be periodically. Puppet agent will be periodically executed. Like default is 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes it will be executed. It will be polling the server every 30 minutes. Okay. Now Akhil is asking, what will happen if we do not define any host name for node? Akhil, actually, when you specify the host name, that is the name that will be used in your key and all. SSL key and all will use the same name. So you should use the host name. Okay, that is the one that is used for signing and mapping. Okay, so any other doubt? Anyone? Okay, so if there are no doubts, then we'll wind up today's session. So tomorrow also we'll be seeing a little more in detail. We'll go a little more detail on Puppet, and please go through this video and please try out. And if you have any doubt, please email me and I'll get back to you. Okay. Now Virendra is asking, can you share the doc for Chef without Docker? Virendra, I shared one image with the Vagrant file. I hope you got that one. Did you get one image in your LMS portal with the Vagrant file? That should help you. Okay, I already sent that along with that PDF. So please check the LMS and it should be there. Okay, so then that's it, everyone. That's all for today, and tomorrow we'll see at the same time. Okay, bye.